Bring it on, Monty.
Bye, Monty.
Welcome to Wiggly Wigglers Podcast number 21, brought to you direct from the sitting room at Lower Blakemere. Yippee! Brawlers in Belfast is back!
Indeed, yeah. It's nice to see you. It was nice to see you when I got back. Montys wearing off now.
I
again.
suppose so, yes.
At least it's warmer here today than it was the last time we did a podcast.
Well, what do you think of your name? Your new
Brawlers
name?
in Belfast. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's really, really good. It would be more appropriate to call me Legless in Lurgan, though, because I was like 25 miles outside Belfast.
Bit of the Guinness, was it?
Yeah, lots of Guinness. You got to drink lots of Guinness when you go to Ireland. It's obligatory, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
I suppose so. How much did you drink?
Lots.
Right. You were there for a whole week.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it before we get on to the nitty-gritty of this week's podcast.
I went over on the Sunday night and arrived at my digs about 10 or something. I walked in and the landlady came to the door and greeted me. And she was so lovely, just the sweetest person. And I said, right, I was quite thirsty, so I said, how far up the road are the pubs? She said, I'll take you up there. And she said, I'll take you up to the pubs and then I'll show you where you'll be working as well, because she knew the nursery that I'll be working at. So I got in the car, went up, showed me where the nursery was, showed me a few slogans, and dropped me off outside the pub. So I went in there and had my first pint of Guinness for a long time, because there's no point in drinking Guinness in England. It was a waste of time. That was really, really good. Yeah, walked home and then started work on the Monday bright and early with a clear head. Great, it was a great experience because I met such lovely people, It's one of those times that you go away and you have a brilliant week on the basis of the people that you meet, because they were so friendly, so nice, such decent people, so welcoming. And I had a couple of guys working with me that were kind enough to help out. We put in some hedging that we sent over from Blakemere and some nice, lovely windy bark chip paths and a lovely teaching area in the middle again, all using lots of bark chip because, of course, bark chip is really good, even though you have to replace it. It's because as it decomposes, it puts nutrient back into the ground, whereas, of course, gravel doesn't do that. Gravel deteriorates, and obviously the aesthetics of gravel deteriorate. You have to replace it, and it's much more expensive, and obviously you've got the environmental implications of quarrying and whatnot. So bark chip is the best stuff to use for paths, really. Mulch is lovely around the hedges, stop the grasses coming up through the hedges. So we did that and put in a lovely wildlife pond as well. And then you commented on the fairy that I'd put next to the wildlife pond as well, didn't you? Because there was a nice little statue of a fairy that I know you like.
I thought it should be pushed in.
I thought it was great. But it was in completely the wrong place in the garden, so I brought it up and stuck it next to the pond. It was great. And everybody thought it was lovely, me included.
Excellent.
And we planted it with lots of yellow flag iris and water ravens and water mint and some lovely marsh marigold, purple loosestrife. Beautiful. So in actual fact, when I left it looked like a swampy wasteland, just mud and mud and mud, because it rained the whole week I was there. But in 3 months' time, the colour and the insects that those plants will attract will be beautiful, beautiful sight. And Fiona, who's the head teacher of the nursery, will send me over some photographs and keep sending me photographs as the site develops.
So here we go over to a few little highlights of Richard talking about dragonflies to all the children of
Drumnamo Nursery School
Lovely.
in Lurgan. That's good. Lots of laughter. Well, we've come down into the garden. This is the culmination of 5 days' work. Haven't quite finished it, but we've put in some paths and bark chips and planted lots of native hedging. And all the children are sat down on the picnic benches in the middle of the garden. What's your name? Amy. What do you think of your little garden now it's been changed a bit? It's a bit muddy, isn't it? Yeah. Do you guys like the mud? Yeah. It's great fun in wellies. You've all got your wellies on, haven't you? All pink and purple and polka dot wellies. So where are you sat now? What are you sat on? Tables, yeah. These are picnic tables, aren't they? Are you going to come down here in the summer?
Yeah.
Yeah? And you'll be able to eat your lunch down here, won't you, in the summertime?
Yeah. But we can't get down.
You can't get down. No, that's all right. What do you think of your pond?
It's kind of lovely.
It's kind of lovely, yeah. It's kind of muddy at the moment, isn't it? What it'll look like in about 4 months' time, there'll be loads of lovely yellow and red plants all the way around the pond. Irises and water lilies and all sorts of lovely things. And hopefully you should see some dragonflies. Do we know what dragonflies are?
No.
No? Everybody seen any dragonflies? Have you been up to the loch and seen any damselflies or anything like that?
I haven't seen any dragonflies.
Did you? Yeah. Big ones?
No.
So you might see a few more of those. And on this bank over here, you see this bank here?
Yeah.
That's going to be sown with wild flowers. So even though it looks like a right muddy state at the moment, in a few months' time it'll be covered in lovely flowers like corn cockles and corn marigolds and poppies. Does everybody know what poppies are?
No.
You've seen a bird? Yeah, there's a few birds about. What type of birds are these?
Wow. Flying birds. White birds.
Black birds?
And white birds. White birds is the same with Holly coat. Holly's over here, no.
Robins, yeah. And you see these seagulls and they're rooks and things like that, aren't there?
Oh, you see them growing up? You see them growing up?
Yeah. Flying and feeding, and you'll see them in the pond washing and drinking and all sorts of things soon.
I seen a butterfly in my house yesterday.
Did you? Was he sleeping? Probably hibernating for the winter, I expect.
When Rach phoned you to see how you're getting on, because we had lost you a little bit.
Yeah.
We'd lost Braless in Belfast for a good 3 days.
Yeah.
She said that you were so busy because you had to stay late that night because of the pond.
Yeah. Well, we decided we should get the pond in within the first couple of days because, you know, with ponds, sometimes that, you know, when you start to manicure them and things, you're going to run out of time. And obviously I've got a window of 5 days in order to do all this stuff. So we put the pond in, and there was a moment where it stopped raining for a couple of hours. So we were digging up all the turfs and eventually found a mattock. God, mattocks are so difficult to get hold of in Ireland, but it's like an essential tool if you're digging a pond by hand because you can really chip away and get the shape just perfect. So we chipped away and got the pond out, and of course it's getting dark. I mean, I couldn't have left it without the liner in there because in actual fact we had torrential rain that night and it would have filled the ground up. I would have better put the liner in. So we carried on, we worked, and we got the liner in, got the geotextile in, got the butyl in, got the geotextile on the top. What I did have to do, unfortunately, is I had to get a load of topsoil, which isn't the best to put in a pond because of all the nutrient.
Yeah.
But because of the subsoil that I was digging out from the pond was so full of sharp stones and glass, I couldn't put it back in. So I had to use some topsoil. But I did mention them to that because we'd used topsoil, the chances are they'll get some mad algae blooms in the summertime. But not to worry, once the algae blooms gone, that's it. The nutrients taken care of anyway. And once we put in a load of hornwort and some lovely alba, so once that starts to thrive in there, that'll compete sufficiently with the nutrients to stop the algae blooms.
Pop any barley straw in?
Didn't put any barley straw in, no, because I said what we'd do is if they do have filamentous algae in there, then we'll send them over some barley straw. But having said that, they know of some farms locally where they could source some barley straw.
Brilliant.
And that, you know, and that's something that the kids can get involved in as well. So you stuff in some onion sacks with barley straw and pop them in the pond.
Lovely. This week's show, we have Phil coming to explain the T-sum to us. Have you heard of the T-sum, Rich?
No, I haven't.
So we'll find out about that. He's been benchmarking his cows,
Right.
which just boggles the mind.
Yeah.
We have Ricky coming to talk about some veggie books that she loves.
Yep.
Monty's coming in with his Wormcast, and of course we have Alison in with Plant of the Week, which is dogwood.
Good stuff.
Phil,
Excuse me.
before we get on to all that, you've been listening in to Kate Humble. I want your job, Humble. It's me.
Yeah, I could see you doing that kind of thing.
Anyway, back to Kate Humble, who is fantastic.
Well,
you like her, don't you, Phil?
Yeah, she's very nice.
And you, Rich?
Yeah, top babe.
Rich and I felt we might trade you in for her.
Oh,
Yeah, is that all right?
that's fine. I don't mind at all going off with Bill Oddie compared to you two.
Oh. Yeah.
Hey ho, Rich, it might work. No, all it was sadly, it seems that we're going to have to address the threat of bird flu and all the press are throwing at us on that. And I caught a little bit on breakfast television the other morning with Kate Humble, who was basically explaining why the summer migrants that come to this country are not a great threat to us in terms of bird flu, and the importance of feeding the birds in the garden, as this has no effect on bird flu or the likelihood of any birds catching it or even it spreading to other species. One point that I thought was important, she said that summer migrants tend to come up what she termed the East Atlantic Flyway, which is a route up the west coast of Africa from South Africa, sub-Saharan region, up the side of Africa, over Morocco and straight up over France. And this isn't coming from areas that are rife with bird flu, although France appears to be detecting it a bit. Her point was that in feeding your birds in the garden, as with dealing with any other pets, the dog, the cat or whatever, you should wash your hands because birds carry various diseases and that cleanliness is beneficial to both the humans and the birds.
Yeah.
So keep the bird table clean, keep your hands clean and keep feeding the birds.
Makes perfect sense.
Thank you. It's lovely to have different members of the Wiggly team in.
It is.
And this week, we've got Ricky. Hello, Rick.
Hello.
Tell us what you do at Wiggly's.
I'm in the packing shed and I'm responsible for having the orders down from the office and putting the orders together, hopefully everything in them, and sending them off to the customers.
So if, Mrs. Smith, you haven't received your moisture mat in with your can of worms, you need to contact Ricky.
Yes.
Ask for her by name.
Yes.
It's your fault.
Ricky in the packing shed. I do have a blonde moment now and then.
Actually, she's very good. It's very rare it happens, but, just occasionally.
Just occasionally, yes.
Yeah. So who do you work with down there?
Sylvia, who's on the post,
Yeah.
and she does all the postal orders. And then we have Wendy, who works every day with me, and Anne, who comes in a few days a week. And we're on the packing side and Sylvia's on the post side. And then we've got Noel, who gets all the worms ready for us. And then Maggie in the painting shed, who paints all the beehives.
And you refer to yourselves as mushrooms, don't you?
We do,
Why is that, Ricky?
because we're often kept in the dark of what else is going on at Wiggly Wiggly.
Yeah, well, that's the same for all of us.
Oh, is it, Richard?
Oh, yeah. You're not exclusively kept in the dark. you
Oh,
know.
good.
The thing is, it's all such a mystery that...
None of us know.
No. Well, it's nice that you've come out of the dark
Yes.
and up to the sitting room. And why is that?
Because we've got 3 super new books in this week. I'm really interested in cooking and like trying new recipes. And I can honestly say these books are all worth buying. And I should be buying them for my collection.
Oh, it's a sales talk on the
Yes,
podcast.
I'm
I think we'll have to
afraid so.
ban her. Darling, one mustn't sell. Yeah, I know you're into cooking because of the gorgeous cakes that you
Oh,
occasionally
yes.
make the Wiggly team. What are your favourite recipes in the cake department?
Carrot cakes and chocolate cakes. I'm trying to find the ultimate chocolate cake that everybody enjoys. So I have to use the Wiggly team as guinea pigs, really,
Yeah,
to
it's
taste them.
such a shame, isn't it? Very difficult.
We've got some lovely cakes, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a shame I have to pay £1 for a slice.
Oh, yes.
He's so tight. He is-
Unfortunately, it's Wiggly policy.
Yeah, that's
We don't
right,
pay
yeah.
£1.
And we make money out of that, you see.
That'll be right. That'll be right, yeah.
Now we can sell cakes as well as books.
Yes.
Naughty,
You never
naughty.
Yes.
Right, so tell us about these books that you've got.
The one is a vegetable book, grow them, cook them and eat them.
I'm picking up now Charlotte Popescu, who also writes books on hens in the garden and eggs in the kitchen.
Oh, does
So
she?
she's obviously into sustainable living, etc.
And this vegetable one is all about the origins of the vegetables, how to grow them, the vitamins they contain, which, is useful to know, isn't it?
Yes, but what you really wanted was the vodka recipe, wasn't it?
Well, that's in the fruit one.
Oh, is
Let's
it?
come to that
Right.
one later.
Right.
And there's lots of vegetarian recipes, and I feel there's a lot of vegetarians around now, and you can always add meat to those sort of things if you want to. I found quite an interesting thing about carrots.
Go on.
They originated in Afghanistan about 5,000 years ago. And they were purple, white, red, yellow, green or black, but not orange.
Do you know, I think I've heard that, but I really thought that they were Dutch.
Oh,
Well, hence William of Orange, isn't it?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They developed the orange carrot to be patriotic, the Dutch people,
That's right.
in the 1700s, which I
There you
didn't
go,
know.
you see, yeah. No, that bit of that was stuck in the back of my psyche, I've just come to the fore again now.
It's lovely that it's back. Can you add anything to it?
No.
Nothing. I knew that would happen.
Yeah, lots of recipes in there. I've tried the curry parsnip soup, which is delicious.
Really?
And the parsnip cake.
What page is that on then? Curry parsnip soup. Got
So
it?
all-
1,
Perhaps
2,
the
4.
next time we have a staff party, perhaps we should all go around to Ricky's place.
Yeah, that's fine.
Have a mad feast.
It's all done in different sections. You've got a section of potatoes, a section of parsnips. It's just really well laid out, this book.
That's really good because if you've got those in season, you can just go to that section and
That's
just
right,
pick it
yeah.
up.
And in the back, she's got a small gardening calendar, month to month sowing and harvesting. And it's got sweet and savoury recipes, and it's just a really good little book.
Lovely. Well, if you could leave your £8.75 on the table
Yes.
before you go out, madam. And what else have you got?
She also does another one, which is fruits of the hedgerow and unusual garden fruits.
And
being
now
a
we're on about vodka.
blackberry vodka.
Ricky has a certain love of vodka.
Yeah,
Wow,
sounds good
I
to me.
do.
So what page are we on?
We're on page 21.
Right.
So this gives you a real opportunity to go out and pick wild fruits. They're not
Yes.
going to cost you anything.
And I've got grandchildren, and it's a nice, to take
Yeah.
them for a walk and point out all the wildflowers, what they can eat and what they can't eat.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you give them blackberry vodka. do
No,
you?
I don't.
Right.
But I'm just a bit worried. You have to wait for 3 months.
Oh,
for
yeah. This is just like slow gin, but
yes,
yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Cover it and shake it, and then you put it in a cool, dark place.
Oh, I see. So you're putting
Straight,
the blackberries into the vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of effort involved, but we haven't tried it yet, though, Ricky.
No,
Are you going to try it this
should
year?
be
do you
well
think?
worth the wait, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
There's lots of sorbets and jams and jellies in here as well, all using things from the hedgerow.
Is there anything about rose hips in there?
Yes, there's
Mentioned
rose hips and also mulberries. Now, I'd never tasted a mulberry till last summer. They're very old trees, apparently, and we did a reenactment at Cowton Court. And
What's
they
a
had-
reenactment?
I do medieval and Civil War reenactments, battles.
Oh.
Which, again, this is coming useful because I do cooking on that as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can go and
Are
collect
you a
all...
royalist then?
I'm certainly not a royalist.
Funny
You're
that.
the only royalist in this room.
What are you?
I'm parliamentarian.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're at a reenactment.
Yes, and there was a mulberry tree there, and one of the people walking around said, "Oh, taste one. You put it on your tongue and it explodes." And it was absolutely delicious.
And then did you go round and round the mulberry bush?
Yes, until the chef caught us because he wanted them for lunch. We'd eaten most of them.
So what does a mulberry look like?
It's a very big raspberry, really, that sort of colour, that sort of texture, and it was delicious.
A bit like a loganberry kind of thing?
Yeah, but apparently the trees are very old. You don't see them many places now, mulberries.
Right, right.
But there's recipes for that. And rowan berries off the mountain ash.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, what
Now
do you do with those?
We've got a tree in the field at the back of our house, so next time the rowan berries are out, I should
Yeah.
be there. You can make rowan and crab apple jelly. You can
Rowan and thyme jelly too. There's
Amazing.
loads
I
of stuff
didn't
in
even
here.
think
make- Yeah,
those
it's
were
a
edible,
super
you know.
book. It's a really nice book.
So, you know the deal. I need the chocolate rating. Just to remind the listener, 1 to 5, bad to good. Hershey's, ooh, it's horrible. Absolutely disgusting, salty, rank.
Not chocolate.
No. Second, Nestle. Third, Cadbury's. It's okay. Produced in Herefordshire to a degree. Got to, support the locals. Fourth, Galaxy.
Oh, has to be the best.
Is that your
Oh,
favourite?
definitely my favourite.
But fifth, undoubtedly, Milka. Ooh. So,
The
you'll have
chocolate.
to stick to my chocolate scale because I'm in charge
Right.
and keep butting in. Sorry, Tom. Sorry about butting in, Tom. What is the first book, Fruits of the Hedgerow and Unusual Garden Fruits by Charlotte Popescu?
Mm-hmm.
The rating.
Out of 10?
No. The chocolate rating.
Oh, the chocolate rating. Oh, sorry, I'm going... Oh, it's got to be 4.
So it's a galaxy.
Oh, definitely.
Lovely. Vegetables, cook them, grow them, eat them. Again, Charlotte Popescu. The chocolate rating, Ricky.
5.
It's a Milka.
Yeah.
Really?
Definitely.
I'm not sure about that. I think it's a galaxy, but
You've never given anything, credited anything with the Milky yet, have you?
well, it's extraordinary Milka. That's a special treat, isn't it? I mean, Galaxy is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
As long as they don't put anything else in it and muddle up the flavour. But You know, milker, I mean, you can't have a normal rating as a milker.
I'll just go along with what you say.
Okay.
I'm sure once you've been into your lovely garden and picked your vegetables and used these recipes, you will put it up in your ratings.
And we all know how good Heather is at
At
cooking.
cooking. And
Absolutely.
how she enjoys it.
I'm making a curry tomorrow.
Oh, lovely.
Excellent.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay.
Cheers, Ricky.
Richard,
Yeah.
bring the competition on, boy.
Okay, well, if listeners from the week before last can remember, we were having a competition, and the prize for the competition is...
How to Be a Bad Bird Watcher. That fantastic book by Simon Barnes.
That's right. And in order to win that book, you need to email us, either richard@wigglyWigglers.co.uk or heather@wigglyWigglers.co.uk, and tell us what the Latin name for a robin is.
We've had a few entries, but it's not too late. So, Latin name for a robin. And now we're going to the slogan.
This podcast will provide pizzazz to your patio and productivity in your potato patch.
The Wiggly Podcast.com Wiggles.
Phil, I want you to tell us about the T-sum.
The T-sum is a device that we farmers use actually to time when we put our first fertiliser on grass fields effectively. The idea being if you put it on too soon, the grass doesn't use it and the water will leach it away into the watercourses, which is obviously bad. And if you put it on too late, you miss out on grass growth. And T-sum is a means of working out how warm effectively the plants and soil is. And it's worked out starting from January the 1st. You take the average temperature for each day, so the highest and the lowest added together divided by 2, and you add them all up, and when the total gets to 200, you've got to your T-sum, and that is considered to be the point at which the grass is growing and requires food to grow.
And it actually gives you the date at which you can start to add your
That's
growing
right.
medium.
You have
So
to be a
is that
little
the-
bit careful, because although they forecast the date at which that's coming, if you have a cold snap, for example, then the T-sum won't accumulate at all because your highest and lowest temperatures will be very low. And equally, if you have a warm week, the T-sum will accumulate very much quicker, so that it gets more and more accurate the closer you get to it. If you try and forecast it too far away, the vagaries of the weather will muck it up a bit.
Essentially, there's a grid over the UK,
Yep.
and when your T-sum comes over 200,
Yep.
that's when you apply the fertiliser.
That's
so
right.
that is when the plant begins to grow.
That's right. It's when the plant sets off growing quickly in the spring, as they do. It's woken up from the winter and it wants food and it wants to grow. So that if you apply fertiliser, it will use it.
So when is the first T-sum reaching 200?
Well, the warmer bits of the country, so round the sort of southwest coasts, Cornwall, Devon, and a lot of the western coasts by the sea are already at T200 now. And I was actually, when we were talking about this, I checked up, they use the same system in America, and in parts of Oregon, which was where I found some information, they get to T-sum 200 within a month of starting, so that they're 26th of January, they've reached T200. So that it varies all over, depending on where you are. But here, we are realistically looking at sometime early March, late February perhaps, that we will get to T200 here. And as I say, some parts of the country have already got there.
And what's the latest T-sum forecast at the moment? So I suppose that's Scottish Highlands.
I was going to say, once you get up to eastern Scotland and some of the cooler areas of East Anglia, their T-sum will be sort of on into the middle, perhaps the end of March in the case of Scotland.
So for gardeners, you could actually use a T-sum yourself.
I think it would be an indication. Obviously, it's based on grass growth, but within a spit, most plants that normally set to in the spring will start at a similar time. And you'll see exceptions, things like snowdrops, for example, which are probably using a similar system, but they are stimulated earlier, so that they'll come out now. I mean, we've got snowdrops out now, haven't we? And they'll come out a few weeks earlier. But within reason, it gives you a good guide, and you know which plants are early and which plants are late by their variety, which plant they are. And it's a good indicator of how the winter will or has affected when they're going to grow.
But if you're using manure, that must heat the ground up to some degree anyway.
you'd have to put an awful lot on to make much of a difference, although in the garden situation, if you put a very heavy dressing on a piece of ground, with a view to digging it in to plant something in the spring, then yes, I think the mulch effect would keep the ground warm.
And where can we get this info?
The Farmers Weekly publish it every week, and it's available on the Farmers Weekly website, which is fwi.co.uk, and that's where I get it from, and it's probably the easiest for anybody. Anybody can go there and have a look.
We're dying to hear how the heck you benchmark a cow. So
It's a frightening experience.
What have you been up to?
Well, the other thing that we've been doing this week is that the RMIF, which is the Red Meat Industry Forum, which is a group financed by the industry in form of the NFU, National Farmers Union, MLC, Meat and Livestock Commission, and our beloved DEFRA, the government, they have decided...
Into jargon, isn't he, mate?
Great, isn't it? They are setting up groups all around the country of like-minded producers, not just of beef, but in our case of single-suckler cows, to basically put into a computer program as many facts and figures as we can about our cattle and their production, the costs, how much money we get for the produce, what sort of welfare standards we've got to, so that we can measure ourselves against our contemporaries in our area and against the rest of the country.
And are you winning, Phil?
There's room for improvement in some places.
He's not then, is he?
And in other places we're doing all right. But in many ways, if we thought we were perfect, there wouldn't have been a lot of point in starting.
So what did you highlight?
We highlighted several things. We highlighted the fact that we carry more cull cows than the average, or more barren cows, and the reason for that is partly sentiment and partly because the subsidy regime allowed us to do it. Basically, if a cow doesn't get back in calf without an obvious reason, a lot of people would send it away quicker than we would. We found that because we feed them for not very much money in the winter, we can afford to keep them on, give them another chance, because very often if they just take a year off, they then will get back in calf and work perfectly well, and you get a much better result doing that than you do by actually buying in a new heifer. The prime example is we had a cow that took a year off many years ago now, and she had 8 first-class calves every year, one every year, after the year she took off. Well, if we sent her to slaughter, we wouldn't have had that benefit, and all it cost us was 1 year's feed.
I was interested in the results in terms of sales, because you've always been quite vocal on your ideas about markets and stress on animals, and perhaps it's not exactly the best way of going forward in lots of circumstances. How did it work out in terms of sales?
We've only done the preliminary figures, but it would appear that that is one of the areas where we're gaining, that we are getting a better price for our cattle and they don't go through the market, and there are fewer costs associated with selling them privately. And to some extent we've made up some of the losses that we incur by hanging on to barren cows and so on. The other slight negative of that year, the year to 2005, was that we had a higher calf mortality rate than I suspect we ought to have done. And obviously some of that's luck, some of it's our error.
So is that at birth or over?
Well, no, that included everything from cows slipping or aborting before full-term pregnancy, right through at birth, and then any calves we lost during their time with us. I've yet to find out whether the MLC figure that's in the programme is actually on the same criteria as ours, but that'll come as we put more figures in.
Thank you.
Great.
It's time for Monty with his Wormcast.
The Wiggly Wormcast podcast by Monty, a weekly fact on worms. Charles Darwin concluded that worms were sensitive to vibrations by placing his pots of worms on his piano when he played. This sometimes caused them to dash into their burrows.
That was brilliant. Cheers, Monty.
It's that time of the podcast. It's that mega moment. It's Al with her plant of the week.
What plant have you got this week, Al?
Dogwood this week.
These are quite difficult to grow, aren't they, from seed?
They are quite tricky. You collect the seed and then you have to treat it, take the outer crust off. And it has to have a long hot summer of hot treatment,
Right.
And then a real long winter of cold treatment before you can actually plant the seed.
Yep.
So in fact that plant here is 3 years.
Wow. So it's
So
3 years in
it's
the
a
making.
miracle you've got any, because how do you manage a long hot summer We live in Herefordshire.
Yeah, it's put under heat treatment artificially.
Ah.
Yes. It's quite a tricky process. You don't get 100% germination.
Does one mean the polytunnel?
The polytunnel, yeah, they can go in the polytunnel or in other methods under light, that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So this dogwood, you brought it in, it looks quite a splendid little plant, doesn't it? And it really looks brilliant in a hedge. Can you describe it for us?
Well, it's 2 years old. It's got quite a fibrous root system, and the roots, you can actually, they have quite a pungent smell. If you like to take a waff of that, Rich.
Yeah.
And the stems are quite red, not like the hybrid of this, the red-stemmed one. This is a native one, the Cornus sanguinea. But you can see it in the hedgerow as when you drive past, because it's just this time of year, it's the only thing with a bit of colour, really, on the stems. It just looks a massive sort of burgundy red.
Anna's been using lots of dogwood in her bouquets because it gives it colour in the winter. When we've got the winter bouquets and they're full of like teasel and greenery, the dogwood really lifts it.
Yeah, I think she had the yellow dogwood. It's really quite bright yellow stem.
And when it's, because dogwood looks great right the way through the year, doesn't it? I mean, it fruits as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it starts off with clusters of cream and white flowers in the spring.
Right.
And then you have black berries on a single head between August and October. And then the autumn colour of the dogwood is a mass of deep purple. It's a really good coloured one, this one. Yeah. So the autumnal colours are lovely.
And the birds love the berries. They really love them.
Do they? Which birds love them?
All sorts of birds.
You don't know, do you?
All sorts of birds. Birds in the thrush family. Blackbirds, thrushes.
Can we
woodlands.
eat them or not?
No, they're mildly poisonous. I think if you eat them, they do taste disgusting to us, though. They're not palatable. So if you went to taste one, you'd spit it out almost immediately. But chances are, if you did manage to ingest one, then you'd probably have chronic diarrhoea and gut cramps and the like.
I'll give it a miss.
Yeah.
But thank you.
That's all right.
When do you plant them, Al?
In the autumn as bare root plant again. This one is a mix in a hedge. You don't usually have all of dogwood like you'd have maybe all of hawthorn. Just have 1 or 2 every 5 metres, that sort of thing. Just to give the hedge a bit of colour for the berries, for wildlife, and for variation, really.
Any uses of the wood? I read somewhere that it's good for carving because it's pretty hard.
Carving? It's got something that's only 3 centimetres wide.
No. Like a ring.
So what is dogwood? Has it got any other uses? I mean, there's a hedging plant.
I haven't heard it for the wood.
Really
it's
good.
not like hazel where they used to use it for sheep pens and things.
Okay, last thing. Why is it called dogwood? Is it because of dogs?
Because dogs like the wood. Maybe. I don't know.
Rich?
No idea.
I'll probably be barking up the wrong tree here, but
What an opportunity.
if you know what it is, email Richard. He'd really like to know. richard@wigglywigglers.co.uk. If you want to talk to Al, email Alison.
Alison@wigglywigglers.co.uk.
Lovely, Al. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, Al.
Oh, we've filled the show this week so much, so it's a quick goodbye. And as we say in the office every night, toodle-doo.
Do we? No, we don't.
We just say go now, bye,
We say bye.
and you're still sat there at your desk.
Oh, well, Nikki and I do toodle-doo to each other. In fact, I
Toodle-doo.
think she says toodle-oo, and I say toodle-doo.
So there you are. Bye-bye. Toodle-doo. I've never heard you say toodle-doo. As we say, toodle-doo. You think those people in Hereford, they say toodle-doo to one another.
Everyone's going to be
You're going to
going
start
round
off this whole new cult. Toodle-doo. I think Orange says it. It must be all right.
Nikki and I do it every night, but it must be a private joke then. She says toodle-oo, and I say toodle-doo. What can I say, Michael? Did it finish or not?